If the Supreme Court did rule in favor of Hobby Lobby, they would be putting the owners of Hobby Lobby's religion above their employees. They're saying that it's more important than the people who work for them.
Any corporation that can claim religious liberty on birth control can also claim it on blood transfusions.
That's not freedom.
You watch women and girls being deprived of their rights. Some of them never have them. Some of them lose them. And among those rights is control over their bodies, control over their own health care, control over the size of their families. And it is a disturbing trend that you see in a lot of societies that are very unstable, anti-democratic, and frankly, prone to extremism. And one of the concurring opinions basically said, well, if the government wants to provide contraceptive insurance or free contraceptives to women, the government can do it. That, that's a kind of odd conclusion because there are one of the concurrences, and it was 5-4, and so it was, pretty much a split between the so-called conservatives and so-called liberals. But that raises all kinds of issues. So does this mean that whoever wrote that concurrence is in favor of a single-payer system for contraception?
What? Welcome to Nothing But Truth, Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth on AFR Talk, proudly on AFR Talk. That was some protesters before the decision and the consequences of the decision, which actually took place in the Hobby Lobby case, and then possibly our next president, that's right, Hillary Rodham Clinton, commenting on the decision. Some excerpts of her comments when asked about the Hobby Lobby decision. Our guest is Hans von Spakovsky. He's a senior legal analyst, the senior legal analyst at the Heritage Foundation. He is manager of election reform at Heritage Action, and he's author of the book, co-authored with John Fund, Obama's Enforcer, Eric Holder's Justice Department. Rave reviews. People are enjoying it because they're learning. You thought you knew about the corruption, but you didn't realize how Eric Holder's a heat shield, used as a heat shield for the president. This book goes in detail. Hans, you heard the former First Lady, Senator, former Secretary of State comment on the decision and what it means if you think the government should just support or buy the contraception, abortifacient, sterilization, the things required through the HHS mandate, which is in addition to the law, or at least a reading into the law of the enforcement and the rights of the Department of Health and Human Services, which they put on business owners. Your thoughts on Hillary Clinton's interpretation of the majority's take?
Well, look, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and the New York Times are the leaders in this mass hysteria that has broken out since yesterday, in which they're making all these just totally absurd claims. No one has taken any rights away from women. Women have access to contraceptives everywhere and anywhere in this country. The only thing the court said yesterday was the government doesn't have a right to force family-owned businesses to pay for that. And the idea that this is the loss of some kind of constitutionally protected right to have other people pay for your contraceptives is just foolish. Even the fact that, look, Hobby Lobby actually provides access to contraceptives, 14 different kinds. Their objection was to abortion-inducing drugs.
But the law itself that was, or excuse me, the regulation that was struck down was for all, right? I mean, for the entire mandate, not just those abortifacients.
Yeah, but
Yes.
Of course that's the way it should be. And
amen, brother.
yeah,
I got
look,
you.
Hillary and all of them have been talking as if the Supreme Court is the one that makes the policy choices on whether to provide different kinds of health insurance. No, all they were doing was saying, look, this conflicts with a prior law passed by Congress, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which, by the way, was passed by everyone in the House, almost every single senator, and was signed into law by that arch-conservative Bill Clinton.
Wow. I guess he should have given her a heads up on everything. But that aside,
yeah. So she basically was criticizing, impliedly, her own husband for having signed that law.
And then we go into, well, why are you a candidate? What are your accomplishments? And then, that goes right to the heart of the matter. I forgot, though. She's a woman, and that's going to be the game plan, it looks like. That said, don't be insulted, those of you on the left. That's reality. She can't name an accomplishment. But back to the focus of the interview. You mentioned the Constitution, and I'm glad, because our president is a constitutional scholar. I mean, he understands this stuff.
So he claims.
Josh Earnest was asked about that and what the Supreme Court said by a reporter yesterday regarding the decision. And so he said this. Roll it.
As the constitutional lawyer who sits in the Oval Office would tell you, is he would read the entire decision before he passed judgment in terms of his own legal analysis. What we have been able to assess so far, based on the preliminary reading of that decision, is that there is a problem that has been exposed, which is that there are now a group of women of an indeterminate size who no longer have access to free contraceptive coverage simply because of some religious views that are held, not by them necessarily, but by their bosses. We disagree, and the constitutional lawyer in the Oval Office disagrees with that conclusion from the court. And that's why we, primarily because he's concerned about the impact that it could have on the health of those women. Ultimately, that the goal of the Affordable Care Act, remember, was to provide greater freedom to Americans to allow them to make more decisions and have access to more options as they seek health care coverage. And that's the source of the concern that we have, and that's the problem that we want Congress to fix. In terms of the broader legal analysis, that's something that we'll get to.
So, Hans, it seemed he got it wrong, too.
Well, look, I actually pulled out my copy of the Constitution yesterday after I heard that, and I looked all through it for the part of the Constitution that says that you're entitled to free contraceptives. And I couldn't find it anywhere in there.
It's implied, Hans. You know that. Come on.
Yeah, I know that. But look, they talk about these women as if they are chattel slaves or bonded servants who can't leave these particular employers. If they don't like the particular kind of health care coverage that their employer provides, this is a free country. They can find a job with some other company that gives them the benefits they want.
But they don't want another job, Hans. They want free contraceptive, and in the case of Hobby Lobby, abortifacients. I mean, that's what they want. I mean, you're saying there's freedom. There's a choice you make when you go to work for somebody, and you also are not being denied access to these. You can buy them on your own with the money you earn at the job. Oh, we would obviously encourage them not to do that and understand what they are doing. But nonetheless, that's what you're saying, Hans. You're bringing in context and common sense, not hysteria.
Right, and
Okay.
there's been hardly any common sense in any of the criticisms that have been mounted. I don't know if you heard about this, but to show just how dumb some on the left are, there's this very popular website called SCOTUS blog. It's run by a private law firm that reports on Supreme Court cases, and all these liberals started tweeting, attacking the SCOTUS blog website yesterday, thinking that was the official Twitter account of the U.S. Supreme Court.
What? The only thing that bothers me is they are targeting a very low information voter with this nonsense. And I just hope that they just start coming in and listening to folks like you on this network and this show, quite frankly. But that said, Hans, there are some questions about the Constitution. The president certainly has. And he is just upset. He's an upset president with Congress because they are not passing the law. And he doesn't want to use executive authority, but he's forced to due to the fact that Congress won't pass laws. And so that's why he does it. He doesn't want to, but he does it. From everything from minimum wage to immigration reform. Roll it.
There are others in the Republican caucus in the House who are arguing that they can't act because they're mad at me about using my executive authority too broadly. This also makes no sense. I don't prefer taking administrative action. I'd rather see permanent fixes to the issue we face. Things where I would greatly prefer Congress actually do something. I take executive action only when we have a serious problem, a serious issue, and Congress chooses to do nothing. America cannot wait forever for them to act. And that's why today I'm beginning an effort to fix as much of our immigration system as I can on my own, without Congress.
Hans, you can go in to the direct issue and then out to the greater issue of constitutional authority to use executive action to, in essence, make law. Your thoughts on that regarding immigration in the specific and in the overall, how he's used it in the past?
Well, again, I checked the Constitution, and there's no provision in there that says that the president can step into the role of making laws when Congress fails to pass a law. The way our system works is if Congress doesn't pass a particular bill and make a law the president wants, then the Congress has spoken, and that law doesn't get passed. The president can't then step into the breach. The president certainly has executive authority, but only within the authority given to him by the laws passed by Congress. And he can't just willy-nilly change our federal immigration system, which is set out in this very long series of laws by Congress. He can't do that. He doesn't have the authority to do that. As you know, that's probably not going to stop him from doing it because he believes he can act without that. But he's not a very good constitutional scholar, as his spokesman claimed, if he believes that.
I just wrote down as you were responding, if we were debating and I was President Obama, I'd say, there you go again, Hans, reading the Constitution, which is what we're all talking about. He's going outside the authority. He's going outside the law. That's what your book focuses in on, and how he's done it, using Eric Holder as an agent to carry this out, or at least when questioned, obfuscate and hide and possibly and not be held to account. So this is the theme, and it goes right back to what you said, the Constitution, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And particularly like on the immigration, look, the reason we're in the fix we're in, the reason we have this crisis on the border with huge numbers of kids coming across is precisely because the president has refused to enforce the law, refused to get illegals out of the country when they're supposed to be out. And so everybody's coming here saying, oh, we can come, we can stay, we'll get an amnesty. If he really wanted to stop this crisis with these kids, rather than parking them all over the country, they would immediately be taking all of these children back to the Mexican border and handing them over to the Mexican government's equivalent of their social services so that they can take care of them and return them to their parents.
Hans von Spakovsky. Outstanding, and love how you bring it home each and every time, going back to the rule of law, the Constitution, and what is as opposed to what has been said, which, wow, there's a gap there, certainly when it comes to the left and the understanding of it all. Obama's enforcer, Eric Holder's Justice Department, Hans von Spakovsky, John Fund, the authors. Check it out. Hans, thanks for taking the time. It is always a pleasure, and it's always educational. Great to be with you.
Crane.
Take care, buddy. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. The GOP Faith Outreach starts today. The website up today. We have...
With another homeschool